And they are golfing the day away. What's the latest report, Jonathan? They're 7 under. Oh, we sold Jonathan's microphone. This is the best. I've done this to him before. I get to talk to Jonathan, but he can't talk back. But the latest report, they're 7 under at the turn. They're having a great time. And, it's funny. I was in earlier this week, and I ran into Art in the hallway. And I knew I was coming in to sub here today. And I said, Art, what do you have going Friday? Anything good? And with a wry smile, he said, I'm golfing. So good for Art. I'm glad that he's out there. And more importantly, I am glad that it is not 99 degrees today. And I'm glad that it's a little bit cooler for everyone that's out there. So, folks, here in the second hour, we're going to get into some pretty heavy content, though. And we're going to have a very important conversation about an amazing cause, the impact that it's had here in the Great Lakes Bay region, and quite honestly, how we all have a role to help fight back and to help alleviate pain and suffering for so many families. So this morning, we're going to be chatting with the Leukemia and Lymphoma Foundation, or Society, excuse me. We have a variety of folks that are in. So first we have Sarah Arminiak, who's the Campaign Development Director for Michigan and Indiana. Good morning, Sarah.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
We're going to stick with ladies first. We have Heather Gallegos from Dow, who's with us this morning. Good morning, Heather.
Good morning, Matt.
And we have a guy with a job title I don't even know if I want to get into, but we'll just say a recovering politician, our very own beloved former state senator Ken Horn, and also with full clarity, the executive vice president at the Great Lakes Bay Regional Alliance, Ken Horn.
That is executive vice president of strategic development.
The show's only so long, and I was trying to save some time, so, I'll apologize for that. So, we want to talk, about the organization first. Sarah, can you tell us about the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society?
Absolutely. So we have been around just over 75 years, and we were started because a teenage boy contracted leukemia, and he ultimately lost his battle. So his family started the organization in honor of him, and we have developed over the years. But our ultimate goal is to find a cure for blood cancer, and I'm going to be specific in using the word blood cancer because leukemia and lymphoma are forms of blood cancer, but there are hundreds of other types of blood cancer as well that we take on at the same time. So we're trying to find a cure. We provide free resources and financial resources for families that are on that journey, and we provide support, and we try to make their lives better. What we have discovered, though, is that when people are diagnosed with blood cancer, they usually have about a week's time frame before they have to start their treatment, and they're in a fight or flight panic mode, so they're not really knowing that the resources that we have to offer to them. So our big thing is to try to promote awareness. Let them know the resources we have. Let them know, or let your listeners know, hey, if someone says, I know somebody who just got diagnosed with leukemia or lymphoma, we have resources. If they call our office, they get a $100 check just for calling so that they can help pay for groceries, rent. We have transportation cards we can give people if they need help getting to their treatment. So we are trying to find a cure first, improve the lives of those that are on that journey, and create awareness. And ultimately, I would love to not have a job.
That would actually be fantastic. If that happens, Sarah, we will find you another job and give you a fancy title because we're really good at that. So
I want a title as long as Ken's.
Make sure that happens. Sarah, so you raised a great point. It's something that we can all personally relate to. We've been in that room when you hear a term or something that you're unaware of, and it's scary, right? I have a rare genetic heart condition called hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, and when the doctor tells you that the first time, you just kind of look and your eyes cross, and then the doctor leaves the room. And our first move then at that point is to panic and go to Dr. Google, right?
Right.
What do I have? They've just told me this thing that I don't know how to spell, and you're on there, and your heart's racing, and you're sweating, and you're trying to figure out. And, of course, the first things you find on Google are always the worst, right?
Scary.
And so you're scared, and it takes a minute to exhale and calm yourself down and figure things out of what's going on. So for you as an organization, do people generally find you just in that same moment of panic where they go online, or are the doctors and hospitals, nurses really good about saying, hey, here's an excellent resource, here's who you want to reach out to first. How does that really work where people find you?
So ultimately, it's word of mouth, to be completely honest. That's like first and foremost. It's from somebody else, a family member or friend that hears it. But we have started working really well with our nurse navigators at the hospitals and the doctor's offices to let them know, here's this phone number, here's this website. So that's our second line of defense. But mostly it's been word of mouth. We hate being called the best kept secret, and that's why we're trying to build awareness.
So this is where, the conversation is going to be tough here this morning, folks, and it's going to get very real and a little raw. So I appreciate my friend Ken Horn coming in to join us, because his life and his family was turned upside down over the course of the past several years due to leukemia and lymphoma. Ken, you had both your wife Veronica and her sister Marty. Both were diagnosed and had, very difficult fights. So from someone that had to be in that room, what was it like when you first found out that your wife Veronica had the same blood disease that her sister was fighting at the exact same time?
We didn't, it was different for us because Veronica felt weak. She felt tired. And it was, she went in for testing at Covenant here in Saginaw. And it was all of the tests she had, nothing, nobody could figure out what was wrong. And so when Dr. Hughes, went over, I can't even remember the name of it. It was something, it started with an L. It was something like leukemia, but it was something short of cancer that she was diagnosed with. And so they put her on, some medicines to try to pick up her white cells, because she was short of, white blood cells, and she just wasn't producing, and that's what they figured was making her tired, and nothing seemed to be helping, and then after a biopsy, it was discovered that she had multiple myeloma, and so MLA, which is the most aggressive form of leukemia. And it is different for everybody. The genetics are different. So, and at the time, it was such a surprise, because Veronica, while she still had a lot of work life left in her, she was preparing to retire from the Saginaw County Chamber of Commerce, where she was president and CEO. She had asked for early retirement to be the caretaker for her sister, who was diagnosed with the same thing. Now, by all accounts and millions of cases over decades, this is not hereditary. It's environmental. We don't know what caused both sisters to have it so close together. But here we are. So Veronica, caring for Marty, all of a sudden here she has it. And so, as Sarah was talking about, this was fight or flight mode for us. And so we ended up, working with our friends at Covenant. We're recommended to U of M. They have a great reputation with cancer and specifically with leukemia, nationwide, worldwide. And, the battle was going well in June. She was taking treatments. By this time last summer, we thought we had it licked. We had the
bone marrow
transplant. Thank you, Sarah. The bone marrow transplant scheduled for October, and so we were taking very good care of her. She was wearing her mask. If she went anywhere, she was feeling better, and things were looking very bright. And then by end of August, she was re-diagnosed with this MLA, and the doctors at U of M said, really, we've done everything we can with traditional treatment. We're going to try to find you something else. We drove down to Cincinnati. There were some experimental treatments down there that we She did her bone marrow biopsy down there. We went down. The treatment that she would have taken, there was a risk of blindness with this genetic treatment that she was going to receive. So they denied her access to this treatment. And then her doctor in Ann Arbor found another couple of possible treatments in Houston at the MD Anderson Cancer Center. So we spent a couple of months there. We didn't know about the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. What we were learning about everything that was happening around us, we learned from friends through word of mouth. From the MD Anderson Center. I think, Matt, you were one of them that brought up, the center in Texas, originally months before that. And, and then, Heather had brought up the Angel Flight, that to get us back and forth. There's no way that she could have, gone charter.
No.
We just could have never, or commercial rather. There's no way that we could have done it in her weakness. And we're not, rich by any means. But, but we have contacts, we have friends, we have people, and we do have, a great health insurance. Mm-hmm. There are people that don't. And so we just felt so blessed, in our lives. And it's a strange thing to talk about when you're dying of cancer.
So we're going to stop there for a quick second and take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about how personal this is and how this region is going to stand up and fight back after these messages.
Now is the perfect.
This is a test of the emergency.
Welcome back to the Art Lewis Show. The Art Lewis Show is presented by Westside Decorating Center. Visit them at 5789 State Street in Saginaw or online at westsidedecoratingcenter.com. So it's Matt Flan filling in for Art today, and we're having a conversation with Sarah Arminiak, Heather Gagos, and Ken Horn regarding the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. And Ken, just to end your conversation, so Veronica, her battle ended earlier this year. How long from the time that she was diagnosed to the time that she passed away, Ken?
10 months.
10 months.
Yeah, and so it was 10 months, and it was through that whole battle. Anybody that goes through it will understand what I'm talking about. You have this understanding that there's always a possibility that it's not going to end well, but because you're fighting, you're not going to accept it. I mean, she was not a person to just to lay down and die, so to speak, right? She was going to battle this. Especially early on in the fight, she told her story on social media, and and other people were helped by her, the strength of her, of the fight that she was putting up. And as we got closer to the end, it wasn't until the very last week, and she made her decision to come home, to go home, we call it. And we decided to go into hospice. Comfort care is what the way that the hospital puts it. And I asked her, I said, "Are you ready for this?" And she said, "Yes." Of course, our faith is so strong after we lost our granddaughter several years ago. Sometimes it takes you farther away from God. Sometimes it brings you closer. Sometimes it brings, tears marriages apart. Sometimes it brings them closer. It brought us closer to each other. It brought us closer to, our faith. And she was ready. And so that last week, we spent so much time together. And I think that was a real blessing, while, with my Zelly, with my granddaughter, I'd never had a chance to say goodbye. It's a different kind of loss. With Veronica, the loss is still horrible, but I had 10 months to say goodbye and a week to really prepare. And so, people really have, the opportunity when something like this happens is, to be the caretaker for somebody that is diagnosed, with AML. Or some other, form of a blood cancer, her sister and her father. In fact, and Veronica knew what these final days would be like because her and her sisters, could be around her father who died of a bone cancer, multiple myeloma, I think is what the title of that. Veronica was always my nurse. She knew all these terms and sayings and knew how to handle all of this. And so while it was all new to me, it was just a chance for the family all to be together, and so I know that she, in the end, again, she was strong, she was faithful, and she was ready.
So we want to honor Veronica's legacy this year, and her sister Marty, who also lost a similar fight. And we want to help families like yours who have been so impacted. So enter Heather Gallegos, from Dow, who is always quick to support in the region important and great causes. You are going to serve as a co-chair with your good friend Jimmy Green for the Light the Night event on Friday, October 3rd, 2025. So Heather, tell me, how did you become the co-chair and get engaged in this event?
So Veronica was a dear, dear friend of mine. I had the honor and pleasure of serving as the chair for the Saginaw County Chamber of Commerce. And I got to do 2 years back to back because of COVID. So I was lucky that my year came up in 2020, and we all know what happened in the first quarter of 2020. Everything shut down. And so about midway through my tenure as chair, Veronica called me and said, I don't really think you've had the full experience being chair. Would you mind doing another term right after this?
That's a good idea, by the way. That's something I should keep in the back of my head.
Yeah. Okay. And I could never say no to Veronica because her ideas were always great. She was such a pillar of our community, and she was right. I didn't feel like because so much changed and we had to do so many different things. And God knows I love an early morning breakfast. And I didn't get to really host the eye openers. So when she asked, it was an easy, yes, I will stay and we'll keep going because we had to change a lot of things. So during those 2 years, I already loved her. We were already good friends and we did a lot of things together, but she became a sister to me. I'm an only child, just like you, but I adopt siblings a lot. And Veronica was one of those people that just came into my life and made my life a lot better.
So we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back and talk about Light the Night on October 3rd and how all of us here in the region can help this very important fight.
My name is Kim Harris.
It's our last one here in Michigan. So we're wrapping up the campaign here with our Mid-Michigan Light the Night honoring Veronica Horn and family. And we did rename it this year, so that is the official name of the event. It's really cool because what it is, it starts at 6 p.m. at the H Hotel back lawn. And we have lanterns that everyone gets. It's a free event. Anyone can attend. And they get a white lantern if they're a patient or a survivor. They get a red lantern if they're a supporter, and a yellow lantern in remembrance. And it's really cool because we have family-friendly activities from 6 to 7:15, food trucks, all different things going on. And then at 7:15, we do our opening ceremony. And it is the most moving ceremony I have ever seen, to be completely honest. And I've been in the nonprofit world for a long time. And then after we do our opening ceremony, and actually Ken will be sharing Veronica's story that night on stage, we will then be walking the Tridge. It's a symbolic half-mile walk that we do with our lanterns. but it really is about bringing the community together. It's about building awareness, letting people know that there are other people out there supporting. It is a fundraiser, obviously, but it is free to anybody. So you do not have to fundraise to be there. But we are asking the local businesses and community members to come together and support. And thanks to Heather and Jimmy, who are co-chairing with Ken and Dick Garber, we have had amazing support this year. So we are very excited to bring this community together. And we're expecting, anywhere from 300 to 500 people out at Mid-Michigan.
So Sarah and Heather, this is a question for both of you. So people that are listening that may have known Veronica and loved her, people that themselves have been personally impacted by them or a family member who are hearing this and say, you know what, I want to go help this event. I want to be a part of it. And although you said it's free, we're fundraising, Sarah.
We are fundraising.
So they want to get out there and help fundraise. What do they do? How do people go about this? Are there teams? Do you sign up as an individual? Do you go online? What's the move to become a part of this event?
All of the above. So we have a link to Mid-Michigan Light the Night that we can share, and they can sign up as an individual and make a personal donation, walk on their own. They could do a friends and family team where they gather their close network and they come out, and a team could be 2 to 100 people. So there's no limit on how many people on a team. And we actually also have corporate teams as well. And we have corporate sponsors. We were very lucky this week to sign on Next Tier and Northwood University along with Garber Automotive. So we're really hoping this year to exceed the $300,000 mark. We've always hovered right around the $200,000, so we're hoping to really jump that up this year because that will be money that we put here locally into the community. So that money that we raise here stays here. It's not going to California. It's not going to New York. It's staying here to help the families and the patients right here in Mid-Michigan.
So, Heather, I want to hear about your role as a co-chair with Jimmy Green, because my understanding between the two of you, you have every phone number for every person that lives in the Great Lakes Bay region on your 2 iPhones. How are you doing this as a co-chair? Do you have your own team? Do you have a corporate team, a family team? How are you actively fundraising and bringing others into the community to be a part of this?
So, yes, I will have a team, and I'm going to go. And this is Friday night football night for my family, but we will still be there to support because that is important. Showing up and being there for our community is so important. So I really encourage other businesses, and I'm reaching out. Jimmy's reaching out. We have a whole committee structure that we've put together, and we've divided and conquered. So we're reaching out to see who will join us. And if you look at in 2024, the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society put back just in Mid-Michigan almost $800,000 to help patients, to help people on this journey. So if we could raise $300,000, that would be incredible because it's making a difference. And we know what it's like. I watched Ken and Veronica go through this journey and the travel to MD Anderson, the travel to U of M. And there were times that Veronica was there, that she was there like a month. She couldn't leave. And so it wasn't like they were able to come back and forth. You've got to have food while you're there. You need a car if you're out of town. There's just so many expenses that go along with this. So if we can help other people in the community, that's a great thing to be able to do. So we're reaching out. And so many people knew Veronica. So this is not a hard thing at all. When you think about the business membership for the Saginaw County Chamber of Commerce, when you think about the partnerships with our other chambers, when you think about the impact that Veronica had during her professional career, you couple that with Ken's reputation from being in politics and what he's done in the nonprofit sector, and then the broader family, right? Joanne Crary, Annie Rummel. This family has given back so much to the region, so much to the state of Michigan. So when you go out and ask for that support, because she never gave up that fight. And she was so visible with her fight. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying that like everybody should do this, but yes, I would love it if all the businesses would do that. So Jimmy and I are just kind of, and Ken and Joanne and Sarah, and Dick Garber, we're just the faces of it, but it's really Veronica's story and people that knew her and want to support that because they saw the journey that she walked. And so to be able to help other families who are going through that just seems like such an easy thing to do.
And as of this week, Matt Fallon has joined the committee as well. So
It's
we
right.
are going to be getting to work, folks. Well, we're going
That's
to take one more break. We're back. We're going to keep chatting about Light the Night and how you can support the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society.
We're proud to make
My good friends, Sarah doesn't know it yet, but she's about to be one of my good friends, Sarah Arminiak with the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, Ken Horn with the Great Lakes Bay Regional Alliance, and Heather Gallegos with Dow. And we're talking about Light the Night on Friday, October 3rd at the H Hotel in Midland. So, Sarah, I'm going to go back to you with this question. And people always want to know, because I think we all are to the point where you want to see cures, right? Or you want to see that treatments come a long way. And HIV and AIDS is a great example. The country put a massive emphasis on that, and now it's not that death sentence that it once was, right? Now it's actually a condition that can be managed for, a lifetime. Are we making progress on fighting leukemia and lymphoma and finding cures and treatments that are allowing people to survive and live longer since this started in 1950? I think people want to know, is there money going to go to something that's making advances? Do you feel like we're making advances right now?
Absolutely. So prior to 2017, right, like we weren't seeing long-term remissions. We were seeing remissions for a few years, and then people were relapsing. We aren't to the point where everyone finds remission, but we are responsible for over 70% of all of the FDA approved drugs for blood cancer since 2017. For children specifically, it was almost certainly a death sentence because they just didn't have children-specific treatments. We now have 3, and children are going on to live a much longer, better life. So we are making a lot of progress in that area. We have put in over $1.8 billion into research alone for that specific reason. We will find a cure. It's not if, it is when, and every year we get closer to that because we don't want to hear Veronica's story again. Like we don't want another family to go through that. So we are making progress. We're seeing great advances, and a lot of people are able to live a very long, successful life in remission and never have to go back to it. And unfortunately, but that is not the case for everybody.
And I can tell you, from a layperson's standpoint, as much time as we spent in so many different hospitals, that our story was one thing, but we saw so many success stories that and there's these smart people that are doing all of these experimental treatments, and they're working. This genotherapy, they're discovering, what's holding up these blockers to treatments, and so we're on the verge of finding this, I think, and for Veronica it just didn't work, and but for 15-year-olds and younger people, there are so many positive things to look forward to, but how do you know about them unless you get involved in understanding this up front? You're going to know somebody that has or will have a blood cancer. I can tell you, because if you know a lot of people, family members, it just comes out of the blue. I'm not sure what starts it, and they're working to find an end to it. But like Veronica, I can say this, and I'll finish up, because I know we're coming to the end of the clock here, Matt. But Veronica was somebody that was a servant leader, and in our family, she was the one that arranged all of our friendships. If we were going to go out with Heather and Lonnie, to fish dinner or something, it was always Veronica that made the arrangements. And I can tell you that, if you want friends, you need to be a friend. And she was always that person that reached out. And I'm not the fundraiser, for this event and, for the Leukemia Lymphoma Society. But I can tell you this, they are a friend. And I'm asking you as a friend to take a look at showing up. Whether you donate or not, come to it. Maybe it's just, the algorithm, of my social media, but I have people, showing up that have been diagnosed and are going through their treatments. And I'm talking specifically to you, Tricia, and Lisa, who are are in remission, recovering. Just rang the bell this last week at U of M, and there are people that are